So think about this for a second. Over 1,000 cases of measles in the U.S. this year. That's not, some old statistic. It's happening right now.
Right now, yeah.
And it's actually making this year the second worst for measles since we declared it eliminated, 25 years ago?
That's right. It's concerning.
It really is. And it's not just numbers. Today, we're going to do a deep dive into something very real that happened because of this a measles outbreak in North Dakota. And it led to unvaccinated students being quarantined.
Exactly. We'll be looking at that specific situation in North Dakota using briefing documents, news reports from around May 9th this year.
Okay.
And we'll try to connect that to the bigger national picture. The goal here is really to understand what's going on, why it matters,
Right.
and just get some clarity on measles, vaccines, public health actions, without getting totally lost in the weeds.
Got it. Okay, so let's start there then. North Dakota, Williams County, you said. Upper Missouri District Health Unit. What exactly did they do when a case popped up?
Well, what's interesting is how quickly they acted. The local health officials, they enforced a state law.
Okay.
It mandates a 21-day quarantine for any unvaccinated students who were exposed.
21 days. Wow. So not optional.
Not optional, no. A required public health step.
And how many students are we talking about? I saw a number.
Yeah, it was pretty significant. 188 unvaccinated students.
188.
In the Williston Basin School District number 7, they all got letters saying, basically, you need to stay home.
That really paints a picture, doesn't it? Just how fast one case can ripple through a school.
It really does. Shows you how contagious measles is. But, even before that official quarantine kicked in, the school district itself was already moving.
Oh, really? How so?
Well, the district nurse coordinator, Lynn Douglas, she sent out a letter beforehand to families.
Proactive.
Very. Outlining, here's what could happen with quarantine, and really pushing for vaccination. It shows they were trying to, get ahead of it and prioritize student health.
Yeah, I saw some quotes from her letter. Pretty direct stuff. She said something like, Williston Basin School District, #7, plays a very important role in the health and well-being of our students. Having vaccine-preventable diseases circulating within a school would lead to large numbers of school absences and adversely affect the health of our students.
Yeah.
It really spells out the knock-on effects, right?
Absolutely. And she didn't mince words about the risk either. She said, while even a small drop in immunization rates can lead to outbreaks, unvaccinated students are at significant risk.
Right. Serious illness, complications.
Exactly. From measles, which are highly contagious and preventable diseases.
Right.
That's the core issue they were tackling, protecting the vulnerable kids.
And she was upfront about why the quarantine, the exclusion, was necessary.
Yeah, very much so. The quote was, WBSD's #7 prioritizes student safety by taking measures to protect unvaccinated students and prevent the spread of illness. And in order to do this, students must be excluded. Sounds like they really wanted parents to understand the why behind it.
Makes sense. And just for context, how many cases total in North Dakota prompted this?
So, statewide, for the year up to that point, there were 9 reported measles cases.
No.
Okay, so yeah, quarantining 188 students might seem like a big response for 9 cases statewide, but
measles is just that contagious.
exactly. It's airborne, spreads incredibly easily, especially in schools that R0 value is really high. So containing it fast locally is just crucial. You have to be aggressive.
Okay, that really clarifies the North Dakota situation. But like we said up front, this isn't just happening there. Let's zoom out now to the national view. You said 2025 is potentially the second worst year since elimination.
It is, yeah. As of May 9th, the CDC count was at least 1,018 confirmed cases nationwide.
Wow.
The only year worse since 2000 was 2019. That year hit 12,274 cases.
So we're getting close to that peak already.
We are. And, the year's not over.
Right. And is there one area driving these numbers, or is it spread out?
Well, there's one major outbreak that's responsible for a huge chunk of it. It started in West Texas.
Okay.
That single outbreak accounts for at least 845 of those cases.
The vast majority, then.
The vast majority. And the worrying part is it's already spread. New Mexico, Oklahoma, they're seeing cases linked to it. And maybe even Kansas.
Do we have numbers for those other states? How bad is the spread?
We do. So Texas itself reported 709 cases tied to this outbreak. New Mexico, 71 cases. Oklahoma had 17 confirmed, plus 3 probable. In Kansas, well, they're investigating 48 cases that might be linked.
That really shows how it jumps state lines.
Quickly, very quick.
And you mentioned earlier that these official numbers, they might not even be the full story. an undercount.
Yeah, that's a really important point. Public health folks often suspect the reported numbers are, and this is the phrase used, a severe undercount.
Why would that be?
Well, a couple of reasons. Some people might get measles but have milder symptoms, maybe don't even see a doctor.
Uh-huh.
Others might see a doctor, but maybe the case doesn't get officially reported up the chain to the health department. Things can fall through the cracks, so it makes it hard to know the true scale.
Right, which makes planning a response tougher, I imagine.
Exactly.
Okay, so beyond just the sheer number of cases, how sick are people getting?
Well, it's definitely not always mild. Nationally, 126 people have needed hospitalization this year. That's about, what, 13% of cases?
13%, yeah.
And tragically, there have been 3 deaths confirmed linked to that big multi-state outbreak.
Oh, no.
Yeah. 2 children in Texas and 1 adult in New Mexico. And
Yeah.
well, it's important to note, all 3 were unvaccinated.
That's just awful. It really drives home that it's not just spots and a fever. It can be really serious.
It absolutely can be.
And what about the vaccination status for the cases overall? Does the data show a clear pattern?
Oh, absolutely clear. The vast majority, that's the CDC's term, of people getting measles this year are unvaccinated.
Vast majority.
Yeah. Only about 4% of the cases were in people who actually had 1 or even 2 doses of the MMR vaccine.
So the vaccine is clearly working for those who have it.
It demonstrates the effectiveness very powerfully, yes.
And it's not just that one Texas-centered outbreak causing all the trouble, right? You mentioned other states?
That's right. It's the biggest driver. But overall, there have been 14 distinct outbreaks reported this year.
14 separate outbreaks.
And 30 states have reported at least 1 measles case. So yes, the West Texas one is huge, but measles is definitely circulating more broadly than just that region.
Okay. So let's try and tie this all together then. We have the North Dakota story, the local quarantine, the school's actions, and then this national picture: rising cases, the big outbreak, the severity. What are the main things we should really be taking away from this deep dive?
Well, I think number 1, it's a stark reminder. Measles is incredibly contagious.
Yeah.
Just wildly contagious.
Right.
But also highly preventable with a vaccine. The North Dakota situation really shows how seriously officials have to take it because it spreads so easily.
Okay, contagiousness and preventability. What else?
Second, the risk isn't evenly spread. The national data just screams that unvaccinated people are overwhelmingly the ones getting sick, and sadly, the ones facing the worst outcomes, including death.
And it also feels like it doesn't take much for things to unravel, that quote about even a small drop in vaccination rates.
Exactly. That's crucial. This comeback, this second worst year, it suggests that herd immunity might be weakening in pockets around the country.
Right, that protective barrier effect.
Precisely. When enough people are immune, it protects everyone, especially those who can't get vaccinated, like little babies or people with weak immune systems. And the North Dakota response, the quarantine, the nurse's letter, it shows the kind of public health tools needed to try and shore things up when immunity dips and outbreaks happen.
So we've got the local response playbook in North Dakota set against this worrying national trend of rising cases, largely hitting the unvaccinated. And the common thread through all of it seems to be vaccination.
It really does keep coming back to that. And maybe that leaves us, and leaves you listening, with a bigger question to chew on.
Yeah.
Why? Why is measles, a disease we eliminated in the U.S., making such a comeback now? What's that telling us about, public health today, community immunity, and maybe the balance between individual choices and community well-being?
That's a heavy question.
It is. Maybe it's worth looking into vaccination rates where you live, or even digging into the history of how we got measles eliminated in the first place. Just something to think about.